6:45. This is the Sri Lanka Broadcasting Corporation. The news edited by Danushka Madhavala, read by Soundi Thavam. Several European countries pledged support for Sri Lanka's organic fertilizer production. Sri Lanka will get 200,000 Pfizer vaccine doses next month. Veteran journalist Hudson Samarasinghe has been appointed as the chairman of the Sri Lanka Broadcasting Corporation. The report on the Parliament unrest that took place on April 21st will be presented to the Speaker next week. The Defence Secretary informs the Chinese embassy to educate the Chinese company employees not to wear camouflage uniforms. In world news, Ethiopia-Tigray conflict, rebels build on capture of capital. And in sports, England won the first ODI against Sri Lanka by 5 wickets. Minister Johnston Fernando says that plans have been made to increase the organic fertilizer production in the country. The minister said that 8 European countries, including Germany and Switzerland, have shown their interest to support the government's endeavour. The minister made these comments while on an inspection tour to check the progress of the Vamba-Eller Canal project. The chairman of the State Pharmaceuticals Corporation, Dr. Prasanna Gunasena, says that Sri Lanka will get 200,000 Pfizer vaccine doses next month. The country will also receive 2 million Sinopharm doses on the 4th of next month, apart from 100,000 doses of Sputnik V vaccine. It has been decided to give the Moderna vaccine as a second dose to those who were given the AstraZeneca as the first dose. Dr. Gunasena said that it is possible to give more vaccines to the people next month. Veteran journalist Hudson Samarasinghe has been appointed as the chairman of the Sri Lanka Broadcasting Corporation. He was appointed as the chairman of the corporation on several previous occasions. Mr. Samarasinghe held several posts, including the post of Director General in the SLBC during the past. The committee appointed to look into incidents that took place in the Parliament chamber and its premises on the 21st of April will submit its report to Speaker Mahindayapa Abeyewardene next week. The committee met yesterday under the chairmanship of Deputy Speaker Ranjit Siambalapitiya. The committee was appointed by the Speaker on the 23rd of April to recommend steps necessary that should be taken to prevent a recurrence of similar situations in the future. Accordingly, the committee considered at length the possible adverse effects of such incidents in Parliament and also discussed short and long-term measures that can be taken to prevent such incidents in the future. A full report in this regard will be submitted to the Speaker. This news broadcast comes to you from the Sri Lanka Broadcasting Corporation. Defence Secretary General Kamal Gunaratne has informed the Chinese embassy in Sri Lanka to educate the Chinese company dredging the Tissaveva in Tissamaharama to tell its employees to refrain from wearing military-style camouflage uniforms in the future. Raising concerns, local media recently reported that Chinese individuals wearing uniforms that are very similar to those worn by soldiers in the China's People's Liberation Army have been seen roaming at a civil operation to dredge and clean the Tissamaharama Veva in southern Sri Lanka. A press release on wearing military uniforms by the Chinese company employed staffers in Tissamaharama, circulation of information on the ongoing project to remove silt in the Tissaveva tank in Tissamaharama run by a private company manning Chinese employees who were reportedly wearing controversial military-style camouflage uniforms has been highlighted in the media. The Embassy of the People's Republic of China in Sri Lanka, following a query made by the Defence Secretary, General Kamal Gunaratne, has affirmed that the said employees are not members of the People's Liberation Army and it is the respective overseas company's overall uniform entitled to the staffers. Further, the Defence Secretary has informed the Embassy of the People's Republic of China in Sri Lanka to educate the respective employer to refrain from its employees wearing the controversial military-style camouflage uniforms in the future, and the Ministry of Defence has also informed the local private company to avoid the recurrence of such action henceforth. The Cabinet of Ministers has approved the appointment of a committee of senior officials to facilitate the legal process on the maritime environmental damage caused by the fire on the MV Express Pearl cargo ship. A consultation program is being implemented by the Minister of Justice with the participation of other relevant ministers and the Attorney General under the directives of the President, with the objective of facilitating due legal process launched in relation with the oceanic devastation caused due to the fire that erupted on the MV Express Pearl cargo ship. That's local news.
The main news story is brought to you by Siddhalepa Vedamahatmya.
According to the Epidemiology Unit of the Health Ministry, 1,717 new COVID-19 cases were reported yesterday. Among the new cases reported, 1,708 were from the New Year cluster and 9 were foreign arrivals currently in quarantine. According to the Epidemiology Unit report, at 11 p.m. Tuesday, a total of 257,225 COVID-19 cases have been reported, and 30,769 infected persons are being treated at hospitals, while 223,471 patients have fully recovered and been discharged from hospitals. A total of 2,636,524 people have received the first dose of a COVID-19 vaccine, and 939,472 have received the second dose, and that came to you in the main news story.
The main news story was brought to you by Siddhalepa Vedamahatmya.
On to Watchlight. Farm organizations say that water supply to agriculture in the Galle district has been disrupted due to the improper maintenance of canals. Although the Agrarian Services Department has been informed, the shortage of machines at the department has become an obstacle. Farmers request the provincial agrarian and irrigation officials to maintain the canals, enabling a systematic water flow for their cultivations, and came to you in Watchlight. On to a bulletin of world news in the headlines. Ethiopia-Tigray conflict, rebels build on capture of capital. Afghanistan, US commander warns of possible civil war after withdrawal. And most Indians oppose interfaith marriage, a survey shows. Rebel fighters in the Tigray region of Ethiopia are continuing to gain ground after recapturing the regional capital Mekelle from government forces. The rebels have now entered the town of Shire, about 90 miles to the northwest, according to UN officials. Eritrean troops backing the Ethiopian army had earlier abandoned the city. The government has declared a ceasefire in the 8-month conflict, but the rebels have vowed to drive their enemies from Tigray. The fighting between the Tigray People's Liberation Front and government forces has left thousands of people dead. More than 2 million have been displaced and 350,000 pushed towards famine. The fighting began in November when rebels rejected political reforms and captured army bases. The government forces captured Mekelle later that month. Afghanistan risks sliding into civil war as the last American troops withdraw from the country, a top US commander has said. Fighting has surged since the US began leaving last month, with the Taliban seizing swaths of territory. All remaining US troops are expected to withdraw by an 11 September deadline. On Tuesday, General Scott Miller said the country could face very hard times if its leadership is unable to unite once international troops leave. Most Indians see themselves and their country as religiously tolerant, but are against interfaith marriage, a survey from Pew Research Center has found. People across different faiths in the country said stopping interfaith marriage was a high priority for them. The research comes following laws introduced in several Indian states that criminalize interfaith love. Pew interviewed 30,000 people across India in 17 languages for the study. The interviewees were from 26 states and 3 federally administered territories. Back to the headlines of the world news. Ethiopia-Tigray conflict, rebels build on capture of capital. Afghanistan, US commander warns of possible civil war after withdrawal. And most Indians oppose interfaith marriage, a survey shows. That concludes this bulletin of world news. In development news, India gifted machinery parts worth 120 million rupees to enhance the maintenance capability of Sri Lanka's Coast Guard ship Suraksha yesterday. In continuation to India's defence cooperation initiatives with Sri Lanka towards maritime security and capacity building, the government of India gifted Sri Lanka 650 machinery parts worth 120 million rupees to augment the maintenance capability of this Coast Guard ship that was presented by the Government of India in October 2017, the High Commission of India said in a statement. The event was indicative of the growing cooperation, camaraderie and friendship between the two nations and their forces, including the Coast Guards, the High Commission said. That's development news, and looking at sports. England won the first ODI against Sri Lanka by 5 wickets. Batting first, Sri Lanka scored 185 runs all out in 42.3 overs. Kusal Pereira scored 73 and Vanindu Hasaranga scored 54 runs. In reply, England hit the target score in 34.5 overs, losing only 5 wickets. Chris Vokes took 4 wickets for the England team and was adjudged as man of the match. That's sports news. We look at business news next.
Contributory deposit of 1,000 rupees from NSB when your child enters grade 1. Open a Hapan Children's Service account for your kid today. Higher interest. Conditions apply. Business News. Sponsored by National Savings Bank. The safest place for your money.
The stock market value of Facebook has topped $1 trillion for the first time after the tech giant won a court victory against US regulators. A federal court dismissed 2 lawsuits from the Federal Trade Commission and a coalition of states, sending Facebook shares up by 4.2%. It took the value of Facebook above $1 trillion, making it the last of the Big Five tech firms to hit the milestone. The legal actions had accused Facebook of stifling competition. That's business news, economic news to follow.
Business News. Sponsored by National Savings Bank. The safest place for your money. Contributory deposit of 1,000 rupees from NSB when your child enters grade 1. Open a Hapan Children's Service account for your kid today. Higher interest. Conditions apply.
Economic news. Courtesy of
I bought my daughter a laptop for her work by managing my finances. Whatever the expenses may be, I can't afford to miss out on life's special moments like her birthday or our anniversary. So you need to invest to make your family's future flourish.
Saving money isn't easy when you have responsibilities. That's why we promise to give you the best returns and guarantee on your investment. LOLC Finance Fixed Deposits. Maximize your savings. LOLC Finance PLC, incorporated on the 13th of December 2001, is rated SLA stable by ICRA Lanka Limited and is licensed by the Monetary Board of the Central Bank of Sri Lanka under the Finance Business Act No. 42 of 2011.
Supporting the national effort in the fight against COVID-19, the Bank of Ceylon, Dialogue Axiata PLC and WaveNet International Private Limited have partnered to establish the National 1390 COVID-19 Integrated Home-Based Care Solution, a consolidated hub combining a digital platform and an outreach centre to better manage the home-based care of PCR-positive asymptomatic or mildly asymptomatic patients for the first time in Sri Lanka. This project was initiated by the Ministry of Health and Director General of Health Services in collaboration with the Government Medical Officers Association under the directive of His Excellency the President and the Honourable Minister of Health. That's economic news.
Saving money isn't easy when you have responsibility. That's why we promise to give you the best returns and guarantee on your investment. LOLC Finance Fixed Deposits. Maximize your savings. LOLC Finance PLC, incorporated on the 13th of December 2001, is rated SLA stable by ICRA Lanka Limited and is licensed by the Monetary Board of the Central Bank of Sri Lanka under the Finance Business Act No. 42 of 2011.
Weather report was sponsored by
Dialogue, in partnership with the Ministry of Education, introduces Nanasa, a trilingual educational mobile app with video-based lessons for grade 1 to A-levels. Now your child can study with ease on your mobile with no subscription fee.
Shahs occur at times in the western, Sabaragamu and northwestern province and in the Gaul, Matara, Kandy and Nuwara districts. Showers or thundershowers may occur at a few places in the Uva and eastern provinces and in the Mullaitivu district in the evening or night. The general public is kindly requested to take adequate precautions to minimize damages caused by temporary localized strong winds and lightning during thunder showers.
Weather report was sponsored by
Dialogue, in partnership with the Ministry of Education, introduces Nanasa, a trilingual educational mobile app with video-based lessons for grade 1 to A-levels. Now your child can study with ease on your mobile with no subscription fee.
To conclude this bulletin of news, a recap of the headlines. Several European countries pledged support for Sri Lanka's organic fertilizer production. Sri Lanka will get 200,000 Pfizer vaccine doses next month. Veteran journalist Hudson Samarasinghe has been appointed as the chairman of the Sri Lanka Broadcasting Corporation. The report on the Parliament unrest that took place on April 21st will be presented to the Speaker next week. The Defence Secretary informs Chinese embassy to educate the Chinese company employees not to wear camouflage uniforms. Ethiopia-Tigray conflict, rebels build on capture of capital. And England won the first ODI against Sri Lanka by 5 wickets.